So I would come home every night from school when I was 6 years old.
Hi, how are you today? Thank you for joining us. Are you new to the community or did you attend any of our previous events? If you are new, welcome. You can take a look at previous talks on our website and also watch some of the previous events on demand. Make sure you do it later and not now. Let's focus and enjoy the next 1.5 hours together. Today we will take you to Lithuania and Ukraine, where we will talk to Andre Baldішюте and Oleg Dроздов. My name is Fermín Tribaldos and I will be your host today. We are here with you live from Hamburg, Germany. We started this virtual world tour a couple of months ago to celebrate our 5th anniversary. With this event series, we are taking you on a tour around the globe to meet some of the most influential architects of our time and get to know them on a personal level. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, let me briefly introduce our format.
At Architects Not Architecture, we do not focus on architectural projects, but on the individuals who designed and built them. We often know the projects and awards of renowned architects, but what we often miss out on are the people behind them. It is them and their unique personal history which influence how they work and what they create. So we try to bring to the stage what too often remains unseen. Today, our speakers will talk about their career paths, their influences, and the experiences that shaped them and made them become who they are today. And the main rule is, they are not allowed to talk about their own projects.
Today's event is kindly supported by Jung and Exerus and Thundermax. It is a huge honor for us to be visiting Lithuania and Ukraine for the first time, at least virtually. This is possible thanks to our two partners who are very active in these two countries. We thank them for their trust in us and our work. We have video messages from them, and let me start by passing the mic to Diana from Jung.
What do people talk about when Jung and architecture are mentioned in the same sentence? It's about color, shape and style, about materiality, directions, taste and encounter. Since 2006, Jung has been providing a platform for an in-depth discussion of architectural themes and related social issues. Nationally and internationally, a contemporary form of professional exchange has established itself beyond the usual communication structures. The Jung Architecture Talks are not an expert-only format. This regular event program is synonymous with lively discussions about vibrant topics in architecture and with networking taking place in a pleasant atmosphere.
So my experience with Jung Architecture Talks has gone over almost a 10-year period, and I've seen it grow from something that is just very local here in Germany to something that actually draws in a lot of interest also from outside. It's now an international architecture talk.
For 3 years now, Jung has been supporting all international Architects Not Architecture events in addition to the Jung Architecture Talks. Since we all can't travel as we used to, we are joining the virtual AnA tour around the globe as well, where we all can visit selected cities and virtually meet some of their most relevant architects. After all, architecture generally lives from the power of images, so please enjoy.
We would also like to mention our media partners: The Architect, Design Boom, Arch Daily, HIS, Architects Association of Lithuania, and SALT. Today we are welcoming our speakers, Andre Baldішюте and Oleg Drozdov. Each of them will have 30 minutes on our virtual stage, 20 minutes to give a talk, followed by an up to 10-minute interview. After that, we are going to have a round of discussion, and we look forward to your questions. So make sure you get ready and use the box on our website to send in your questions. You will find it on the right side when scrolling down. That's the plan for today, but before we start, let me pass the mic to our partner Rytis from 𝗓𝗏𝗏.
My name is Rytis Medžius and I'm one of the founders and managers of 𝗓𝗏𝗏. 𝗓𝗏𝗏 was founded in 1998 and since then is a professional partner in exterior and interior cladding supply. We work with architects, investors and contractors and present them newest cladding materials, ideas and solutions in the Baltic states, Scandinavia and other countries. We work with HPL compact panels of 𝗓𝗏𝗏 for exterior and interior cladding, glass fiber reinforced concrete of Rieder, terracotta panels, fiber cement panels, bricks, aluminium composite panels, metals like copper, titanium, zinc, stainless steel, aluminium, also perforated and expanded metal solutions. For interior, our strengths are acoustic cladding for walls and ceilings, metal ceilings and other solutions. In our own CNC workshop, we can make lots of customized solutions to realize non-standard architectural ideas like perforations, carvings and other. Stay with us, 𝗓𝗏𝗏, dedicated to walls.
Our first speaker was born in Šiauliai, Lithuania. She studied architecture in Vilnius, Valencia and Amsterdam. After gaining experience in the Netherlands, she established her own practice Andre Baldi Architecture Urbanism, now Do Architects, in 2007. She is also one of the initiators of the educational platform Architecture Fund in Vilnius. Her practice is distinguished by its socially responsible attitude to architecture and the processes of architectural life. Some of her most relevant projects are the Kiteboarding and Windsurfing Center, Ogmios City Public Space, Mo Museum, Family Villa in 𝗔𝗿𝗰𝗵𝗶𝘁𝗂𝗹, B Nordic 26, and the Rolling Home concept. Amazing projects which won't be the topic of her talk today. We are very excited about having her participating. Welcome, Andre Baldішюте.
Hello, and thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Fermin, for invitation to this digital event. And I take it a great honor to share my story with all of you. Today, I will try to do my best to translate everything into that digital message. And it's a pity that I cannot catch emotion of your faces, but I will try to be somehow involved in a physical interaction and hope to receive spontaneous gestures from you that maybe would allow me to stop or just to change my theme, and I hope. And I could start my story. I will share the screen. You can see the wonderful picture of Lithuanian landscape. And
so we cannot see the slides, but it will work, I guess. Thank you, Andre.
So I hope it
now works. It works. Perfect.
Good. So in this first slide, I share with you the beautiful landscape of Lithuania. And in Lithuania, I was born in the north, in the city of Šiauliai. We called it the translation could originate from the sun city. And the city is almost 800 years old, but it was strongly destroyed during the World War II. And, growing there as a child, I do not remember any old city feeling because it was almost newly rebuilt during socialist annexation years into a new social housing type. A city with free planning structure, with wide streets, with separated functions, with factory areas, housing areas, shopping areas, culture, school, and so on. And, this tragedy of my city was that all historical ties, they were lost in the past city layout. And, I grew up in a 12-story apartment building in a new southern sleeping district in Šiauliai. And not far from our house, there was a big bicycle factory. And during 80s, a lot of bicycles were made there. And we had a lot of bicycle paths in Šiauliai. And for me as a child, it seemed that everybody had a bike there. And this cartoon was made the year I was born. And it was in the 80s. And it was made by my father. He was a cartoonist, and he was drawing political cartoons. And, this satire was a resistance to the system, to the political annexation of Lithuania. And in 70s and 80s, youngsters really were discovering a lot of hidden forms of protests against the system. And, my father's way of protesting against the system was just to draw cartoons. And in this image, you could see foreign oil companies that at the time existed in the world, but not in Soviet Lithuania. And this satire is also, a bit about labeling a newborn child. It's some kind of a birth certificate, as during 80s and 90s, there started to appear foreign fruits in a very limited access. And they had their fruit labels. And, you could know from where the fruit is delivered. So if such a fruit label appeared close to you, probably you would never throw that label. And you would try to collect it as a proof of your wealthy life. And my father in 1987 decided to organize an international cartoon contest. And it was called Velo Cartoon, as Šiauliai was a cyclist city, so politically everything was correct. And he sent invitations to almost 30 countries with a call to deliver 2 cartoons. And one cartoon was a bicycle theme, and the other was a theme free of your choice. And only after some years, way later, I figured out that what was really encoded into that call to deliver a second cartoon free of choice. The main theme was bicycles, and it was politically correct, and it was widely promoted as a bicycle theme. But actually during that cartoon contest, we always received so many political cartoons with jokes and satire against the system. I remember in 1988, a lot about Gorbachev. And what I really don't remember is these cartoons were exhibited in these years. So probably all these files are still, in the archives. And as a child, I grew up with piles of parcels and envelopes that were coming from all over the world, because these exhibitions my father decided to make, they were held in 1988, 1990, 1992, and 94. So it was almost 10 years gap between them. So me as a child, I remember that me with my sister, we had to help my father to sort these piles of parcels. And our job was to cut out the post stamps and to soak these stamps into the water, in order to make them clean from the envelopes. And in a year 1987, we received 300 parcels. And, this involvement into international, affairs, broadened my parents' foreign connections outside of Soviet-ruled republics. And everybody in our big neighborhood, knew that we are receiving these foreign parcels. And, today it's such a natural thing. And in the 80s, it was so special somehow. And, that drying process of the stamps and then sorting was some special meditation for me. We were sorting these stamps by countries and by continents. And, you find post stamp with nature, with flowers, and it's probably coming from New Zealand, and you see it with the Queen, and it's from Great Britain. And, from time to time, we were as kids, we were getting to know geography and the world, and we were matching these stamps with the world map. And the world was so big at that time because we didn't travel as kids abroad. And these parcels with envelopes, it was our discovery of that joy of the journey around the world. And, I remember as a child, we had a world map, and suddenly in 90s, this map becomes irrelevant. And the years of 1990s, 1992, when Soviet Union and Yugoslavia collapsed, and it evolved into 20, 25 more different countries with new names. And, probably being a child in that time, I remember very well one thing, and I remember that feeling that you are not in these maps anymore because your status has changed. And there are so many people that do not know who you are, and they just do not mention you. And later, this feeling emerged so many times during both my childhood and my study years. And, it's probably some kind of a feeling that you would have if somebody kidnaps you and keeps you isolated in a cellar for half of a century. And of course, they do not kill you, but you probably see them killing your father, your grandfather, or your uncle. They start to educate you, they give you books, they give you food, and they even try to convince you that they take care of you, but they explain that you have everything, and this is your world, and you should be happy, but they do not allow you to leave that cellar. And outside that cellar, the new generation, totally new generation emerges that already doesn't know you. And when you finally come out, it takes so much effort and time to come back to that normal. And probably from 90s up until now, Lithuania as a country were so many times going back to that normal. And it's just, if you run a marathon and you have a healthy legs, you just have to train to run faster. But if you have broken legs, first you have to treat these legs in order to start to train for the marathon. And this goes on and on and on. And during my childhood and my youth, there were so many moments that we're so happy that we are allowed just to participate in that marathon. And because we just finally managed to treat our leg. And it was so not important that, we just cannot win that marathon. And, this marathon is, of course, a metaphor to explain that feeling I had during my youth. And what was interesting in the town I grew, it was artists Reda and Arūnas Uogintai. And during my youth life in Šiauliai, They were active performance artists, and they were working for 𝗓𝗍 Theater and building, I remember, colorful decorations for the theater, Jonukas and Grytutė, and like doing also a lot of performances. And looking at them, I had no feeling that they are catching up for something. They are so unique, and they managed to live with their almost daily performances, like up until today. And during even our lockdown, the recent years, when a lot of artists started to feel lost and troubled, like galleries were closed, exhibitions canceled, Reda and Arūnas started to film a daily quarantine diary with outstanding performances, like reflecting social, political, or even simply daily life. And, you know, these people who were my idols during my youth years, they also became my friends through their son Ignas, with whom we started to work together on architecture almost like 15 years ago. So artists orientate, they are like masters to celebrate that life. And I am sometimes even suspicious that they are even not protesting. They are just living their very honest, colorful life without being afraid that you might look too awkward with like your bright green shoes, shaved head in the center of 𝗓𝗍. And 𝗓𝗍 is not New York, and it's not Amsterdam, where that would be a charming norm for a famous like artist. So, you know, finally Lithuania regained that independence in 1990s, and we started to build a capitalist country. And this is also a cartoon, a political satire from my father. And for his 55th birthday, some 10 years ago, we were archiving his work and working for the catalog. And I've noticed that he stopped drawing cartoons just after we gained back the independence. And, you know, he just said that there was no sense anymore, as now he said, I have just to build my country and to, instead of criticize the system. And, you know, these stories, they are so present in your childhood that you only start to understand them a bit later. And in my parents' stories, then I remember Vilnius as a city was very abandoned, and in 70s they didn't go to study there. Instead of that, they went to study in Kaunas. And already in the end of the 90s, me myself, I went to study architecture in Vilnius. And after the World War in Vilnius, a lot of buildings, they just were destroyed. The ones that were not fully destroyed by the Germans were thoroughly cleaned up by the Soviets. And a lot of the city was rebuilt in a totally like contrary spatial layout. And this wonderful book about Vilnius that I brought with me from 𝗓𝗍 to Vilnius was made by Vladas Drėma, an art historian and art critic. It's called Lost Vilnius. And here he deconstructs the lost past of Vilnius, explains it with a very precise drawings by his own. So in Vilnius, I started as a student, and I was very lucky to start architecture with a very bright and modernist teacher, Justinas Šeibokas. And his very strong and conceptual thinking was always very influential. And his wonderful office building from 1979 in the central part of Vilnius is it's a masterpiece of modern architecture in Vilnius. It's at the same time brutal, at the same time conceptual, at the same time yet very soft and delicate, with few right waves like dragging and pushing you in and out of that building. So it has that old specific, splendid Baroque of Vilnius and very pure modern expression of its time. So this was my first teacher, and another big teacher and a friend of mine is Rolandas Palekas. And as he was my university teacher, I later continued to work with him in his studio. And after we gave architecture classes together for architecture students. And, Rolandas always seeks for so much poetry in all his work. And he always taught to observe, and only then to choose. And, he's the one who said that you always have the right to doubt about your projects. You have the right to question again and again and again, and until you are very confident that this is the very right way that you choose. And also that even if you choose, you still have the right to change your mind for a better project. And, I love this thought that you are allowed to change your mind for a better project. And I'm very thankful to Rolandas for the support also during my later Amsterdam years and Amsterdam studies, and all the confidence he showed in me later. So after my studies in Lithuania, I started my Amsterdam Academy studies. And, I started in Amsterdam with these first two books, and both of them were about America. One was Delirious New York by Rem Koolhaas, and the other one was Death and Light of Great American Cities by Jane Jacobs. And one was written by a Dutch architect about the evolution of a super powerful cultural center, while the other was written about how cities should be treated and lived in. And living in Amsterdam, you could definitely see as the existence of that Jane Jacobs city in reality. And with my academic teachers, we were analyzing the concepts of these books. We're talking about experiments, utopias, and new challenges for architecture. And it was so special because, finally I started to feel that I am training for the marathon, but not healing my broken leg anymore. And of course, Amsterdam and living in Amsterdam was really intensive study and work life. And at the same time, I was confronted with a lot of funny events. And when I moved to Amsterdam as a student, I just couldn't find an affordable house to live. So I just had to live in a tent for a while. And it lasted just only a month. And then, I managed to rent a room in an apartment with a very wonderful retired teacher of literature. And then she was bringing me to Sunday concerts in Amsterdam Philharmonic. And these were wonderful, wonderful times. And so, life gave me comfort. And I started to work at One Architecture in Amsterdam for Matthijs Bouw and Donald van Densik at the time. And life was super busy. And, it was cold November. I had my first project review in the academy. And this was really stressful time of moving to a new country, completely alone. And you have to find a house, a job, friends, and so on and so on. And of course, there is never enough time, so you have to work overnights. So I wake up early, then full day in the office, then from there I rush back home. I take my prints and my models of the project. I park my bike to the rail of the bridge and, quickly run upstairs, pick the boxes with concepts, models, and then back. I tie my boxes to the back of my bike. And as I start to move, my projects fell into the canal. And the feeling of that moment was just something, different from that I had before. And, the boxes, they quietly start to float in the canal, and it's evening, it's cold, it's quiet, and the presentation has to start in 30 minutes, and everybody is already there preparing for it. And I just decide to call my teacher, and this is the tricky thing. This is, your first review, and nobody really knows how good or bad you are, because you are in Amsterdam, and your failure stories that you dropped your project in the canal, this might sound so absurd. So I call my teacher and tell him that my project fell into the canal, and he just quickly said that, don't worry, it's okay, no worries, but you just failed with your project review and you will do it next year. And then, I don't know how the rest happened. I hang the phone, take off my clothes, jump into the canal and reach my project boxes. And the woman from the boat, she just helps me to get out from the water and through the boat house window. And, with half wet clothes and with wet boxes, I cycled to the project review. And, it's not over yet, and I am just allowed to do the presentation. And, here is that metaphor of that marathon again, that finally, when you are allowed to be in that contest, you should not allow yourself to break that leg again. It's just, unthinkable. And, like in Amsterdam years, they were full of many adventures, and I was working at 𝗪𝗁 𝗪𝗁 of Sylvia, 𝗪𝗁 and Bart Brandts. And then we started to visit Lithuania for a project. And, almost like 60 years passed since my involvement with this beautiful site in Lithuanian Cronian Lagoon with Svencelė site. And I just started to wonder how it looked like all these years ago before we started. And, I remember that very fragile landscape, and it's interrupted with abandoned remains of huge farms. And, in my whole career, I have two long-lasting projects, and one of them is Svencelė, and the other is that 𝗪𝗪𝗵𝗁 city, ex-military area, and that we started to transform from into shopping and then into exemplary public space. And, when you see these two sites before your intervention, you see that today 𝗪𝗪𝗵𝗁 site, like this site, is brought back to nature way more than it was before, and Svencelė is way more urbanized. And I then remember a story of the hairdresser that refused to cut my hair because it was too long and too beautiful to cut. And probably we as architects, just also should try sometimes to do more or often. And then I entered to the era of Do Architects. So, all these projects that we started, they successfully merged into our Do Architects office. And, with this bright team of Gilma, Gilite that I met in 𝗪𝗁 Brandts, and with Sabina, with Algimantas, with Ignas and the others, we really share a lot of common things, and there's still a lot more to go. And so thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you. If you stop your screen sharing, I will see you in full screen mode. Thank you a lot. It was wonderful to see your upbringing. I think that this, as you mentioned, it would be nice to see emotions. It was like this.
It's a pity I didn't. It's a pity I didn't. Yeah.
It was fascinating. It was wonderful to see that. And there are so many possible topics to discuss. Now you're part of the marathon, right?
I hope.
Are you enjoying being part of the marathon, or do you think maybe I will do a half marathon, or maybe I'm going for a triathlon?
There are various thoughts always, and the most difficult thing probably is just to start. And I would say that you didn't see the end of my full presentation, so.
What was coming?
Next time. So
for the in-person event.
Yeah. So for the other event, now I enjoy not only the marathon. I enjoy a lot of small personal things that are not less important, for your life than your big ambitions. And probably you have decades when you learn, when you go in full power, and when you enjoy. So I'm kind of coming to that decade when I enjoy, my life.
With everything you have gone through, what kind of tips or recommendations do you have for your kids, for the next generation, or for the young generation of architects?
Oh, I think my kids will give me tips, and they will be totally different. And now they are different, and there will be something out of that difference. I don't know. Yeah, but probably just do what you want to do. It's very important. What gives you just happiness. Yeah.
At the beginning of your presentation, you showed some pictures of 𝗔𝗿𝗰𝗵𝗁𝗍, an historical city which was destroyed. How do you think this feeling of growing up there influenced you as an architect later?
Like in 𝗔𝗿𝗰𝗵𝗁𝗍, I was probably growing as a person, as an independent person, and later, like Vilnius probably and Amsterdam, they formed me more as an architect. But of course, I had my wonderful parents close to me, and all these, values they said to me. But 𝗔𝗿𝗰𝗵𝗁𝗍 as a city, I don't remember as an architectural city. Probably it never was such a city. Yeah, just for me. Yeah.
It was also interesting to see the book about Vilnius, about the former Vilnius.
It's a very thick book, very, very thick book.
I can imagine that.
It's a big and thick book, yeah.
It's super exciting. There is maybe one topic, one last question, because we are over the time. You mentioned during our previous conversation that you took a year break twice with your husband, and you traveled with him or with your kids. How does that help to organize your thoughts, and how do you find time for yourself in your everyday life? We cannot do that. That would be great if we can do it tomorrow, but sometimes I guess you need to reflect and clear up your mind and your normal everyday life. Yeah. I really love to go with my family and with my kids to unknown places, and they allow you to be in that very close moment during your trips. And, you are encountered with them in so many various feelings, like with both positive or distractive or joyful or even sometimes painful.
And like you become their feelings become you. And, you know, I have that luxury to be with them all the time, because during your daily life, you do not have that luxury. And, you know, I really love that luxury, like to observe them, to learn from them. Like you just learn from your kids what people say they want and what they really want. And there is a difference always. And they teach you that simple thing. Yeah. Because it's still so obvious and uncovered in them. Yeah.
And now with your routine, also with going to the office every day, or actually at least before COVID, in your everyday life, how do you try to find time for yourself?
You just go out.
There is no time.
You just go out. You just go out and close the door. Yeah.
That's a good strategy, yes.
I mean, if you want to find time, you just have to find that time. And yeah.
That's a good way to do it. Andre, thank you for the presentations. It was wonderful. Now we are going ahead with Oleg. So we will see each other in about 30 minutes for the roundtable discussion.
Thank you, Termin.
Thank you a lot. It was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Our second speaker was born in Volgodonsk, Russia. He studied architecture at the Kharkiv University of Civil Engineering. In 1997, he established Drozdov & Partners architectural practice. The office works on a global scale in countries like South Korea, France, Switzerland, the USA, Spain, and Kuwait, and embraces the philosophy of critical artistic pragmatism. Some of his award-winning projects include Ave Plaza, House with a Peristyle, Arc, Water Patio, and the VG Horse Club and the Dental Clinic, which were recently nominated for the Mies Awards. He has curated Ukrainian projects at the Rotterdam Biennale of Architecture 2005 and the Moscow Biennale of Architecture 2012. In 2017, he founded Kharkiv School of Architecture, the first private architectural school in Ukraine. We are very honored to have him with us today. Welcome, Oleg Drozdov.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to that event, and very much a big thanks for invitation in such kind of event. It's some kind of a beautiful possibility to talk with you, but and with a difficulty, I would not see this auditorium and all faces around. But I will try my best. Maybe, look at some space with a lot of creatures and smiles and faces through it. Okay, I will try to switch on and back to the pictures. Look at these. And sorry, a few seconds. It's before it looked like I'm ready, but not now.
Okay, don't worry. It will work. Take your time.
Yeah,
Oleg.
sure.
Now it's working. That's great.
Should I start right now?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, this is like if I try to excavate my memories. First thing that is, I don't know why, much more important than the parents. It was like a big river. I was born in around a big river, and this river, I don't know, always my my most common reference for everything. But I'm not every time pronounce it, but I'm always, I don't know, feel this river. And my origin came from a quite ambitious idea to build a new chemical factory and chemical research institution in the middle of nowhere, and this place where near River Don, small town was founded a little bit before, but this was like a decision of May to develop new town around a new industrial area. And this was like some kind of utopia, and all my life I spent in utopias. And this was like a quite comfortable with other series of this kind of exercise to live, to participate in quite experimental type of life. And two young professional scientists, chemistry science, growing up. And if I'm trying to find my first feelings of this space, and maybe not just space, something more architecture, maybe tectonics. And this was like two things going to my memory more and more. One belonged to infrastructure, and this is Volga-Don Canal I didn't discover it is an English word for that, but in Russian and German it have to be in Dutch Schluss. Yeah, and it's something which helps to organize difference between the spaces. And second one, it's not really some minaret of Победа monument and tribune for manifestation and very Soviet type of typology, and also it's more close to just a simple courtyard. I do remember I was so much experienced, but to be in inner space, and I do remember. But this is a courtyard somewhere behind. There's a woman, and there's shop windows and some little bit further to that, and second. Maybe, also some kind of space formed me and helped me to understood priority. It was like a step. All this landscape around was quite flat, and it was like a semi-desert, a little bit, I don't know, quite very, very special lawn, which becoming absolutely white in the middle of the summer and absolutely flat with the open horizon. And this is horizon, I'm back to that in my feelings, and this is my priority of empty space and something and silence. It was for years, and I'm back in year to this some kind of environment, and I'm looking again to this. It was like a phantomic movement of my brain to this kind of space. What I'm, one of the passion of whole of my life was some kind of infrastructure, because if you live in this empty space with a horizon, it's always interesting something which could be connected to modernity, to, I don't know, some kind of avant-garde, to infrastructure, which something about you, but you cannot reach right now. But your next, I don't know, steps could be introduced. What these things about, and I'm back and in some kind of to these feelings. I'm traveled a lot during my my students' time in Soviet Union. In this like political formation, when I spent quite big time of my life, and this was like emptiness and some kind of infrastructure, and this kind of infrastructure not very reacted to my life. I didn't know what exactly this infrastructure served on, and this was like some kind of moment. And this is all my life I spent in some kind of narrative which completely doesn't connect it, and maybe will be connected in some final phase of my understanding. And this was like some kind of competition. My father spent a lot of time for developing a new laboratorium, I don't know, new research institution in German Democratic Republic, and he brought with from like I don't know, it was some books in time to time, and this is I have like some kind of icon of erotic in my home, and landscape and other kind of completely undiscovered type of feelings of spaces. Some from Jan van Eyck type of urban space which doesn't exist around me, and this was like some kind of relation between inner and I don't know, semi-private and some far space, but everything was urbanized, and I was so extremely fascinating by this kind of imagination, how could be, and this is something image, and this happened in the end of 80s. I got a book with some example of abstract art, and this is like so much. I do remember this paintings of Sonny Delaunay, which I recopy on wall of my room, and this was like I was like 14 years old, and this was like a very important action what I did in this my childhood life, and this is like was a very very friendly, met my parents, and this was like a family decision that I could do that. And yeah, and finally I arrived and start to my educational, my studies in Kharkiv. This is like a super special city that it's placed there a few utopias realized, and you see some early photo pictures of the building. It's building one of part of the complex of new central square, which was built after as a result of competition, and this had to be a new center of new capital, Ukrainian Soviet Republic, and this was like a moment that a lot of ideas to landed on one place, and this is city realized all utopias of beginning of 20th century as a new type of avant-garde cultures, and this is theater of Brazil in architecture and art and theater and in all kind of mass performance, and also this city famous by competition for mass theater theater of mass performance. There participate Mars Breuer, Gropius, won this competition with Nin Brothers, but this was some kind of booming place of booming ideas, and modernity realized in whole body. Maybe it was like some epicenters where this happened. And also, I want to mention also a huge district there is already in the beginning working in all these companies and all right. But the same case, yeah, this is kind of architecture, this kind of an environment becoming a little bit forbidden in my time when I came to the city in the end of 20s. And our utopia came to this first page of Oriented, and this is it's mass prefabricated houses. It's in this district in the city called south of Ka, and this was very crucial moment that 350,000 people got a social lift and have, I don't know, quite comfortable in that time environment to have some kind of employment, and this was quite a temporary qualities that they get, but in general it was like an enormous moment. Then your quality of your life changed, and we could expected this kind of frame and, I don't know, pressure of political system and I don't know, some kind of circumstances formed lifestyle of these people, but for some very short moment, without reflection that they get in this displacement or this new area, new environment, and new places in your apartment. This was like a very, very short moment then when people feel yourself, I don't know, something, yeah, in new level of happiness, new improvement they feel. And my some study environment was so limited, and a frame was so tiny, and whole information what we get, it was like not in school library or city library, and everything. If you need to have for your study, for your understanding of profession was like just maybe 3 magazines, which quite little bit independent. And this was like a technical aesthetic, a technical aesthetics. It was very formal type of publishing. And this was like not real theory. It was like mostly performing some kind of theory. It was like more quite artificial type of feeling, but not real feeling. But some kind of source which we are interested on. This is a Polish magazine project which combine quite a lot of information and publication from different fields, from theater, from graphic design, from industrial design, a little bit in architecture. But this was like some kind of source where we also studied what happened in our land in 20s, 30s. This kind of, they introduced us of modernity, of constructivism and abstract art by Lissitzky and Malevich. Most favorite magazine at that time was like Architecture d'aujourd'hui, which this is like a issue, front page of issue from 1970, but in beginning of 80s it was like a photocopy. It was like a black and white without advertiser, some kind of it's like a Soviet form digest after very strong preparations with a very bad quality, and not much from my colleagues and students' time understood what really is this content of this movie. But we dive to some alternative art and alternative, I don't know, type of thinking. The best thing what I got during this time, it's some kind of communal life. It's very strong discussion about everything, about politics, and we are becoming more and more informal. And song of Sex Pistols, which with the words "No future for you." This was like a type of our environment, our present and future, and we it's one of the pictures from part of Tarkovsky scene from Tarkovsky movie, and this was like a part of life. It was like one of not forbidden type of art which were possible to see. And I also participate in very crazy during this Cold War, last phase of Cold War military service, and which I'm trying to look at everything happening around me for all these optics when I get before this critical optics, and this is some kind of military exercise, and happened something which absolutely changed my mentality, and I'm become involved into much bigger process than there's a new movement which mostly came from Rotterdam and London. I mean these early Zaha Hadid projects and Ramkoch's OMA projects. They meet our backgrounds, our part of our underground life. It's abstraction of Soviet 20s and 30s. Yeah, but it was like a quite difficult during this next decade after independence of Ukraine and collapse of Soviet Union to find place for myself, for I don't know, for some kind of action, and I spent a lot of time to develop my artistic career. But when I'm open at my architectural practice, main topic when I focus on it was like a reaction on this closet environment to try to be exhibitionist, to try to relate it spaces. Was like a quite important and rooted issue of our practice, and we try to relate it inner space and environment, garden and house, I don't know, some commercial spaces in the street, and we spent this first decade. And our education was like much more from our doing. And second important issue that I'm focused on, it's like its relation between geology and the city way of the thinking, because globality quite very much against it, and I could mention two most important books which about layer or references.
Oleg, if you can repeat it, because we lost your connection for 5 seconds. You mentioned the two books, and
it's by Vladimir Nabokov, AnA and Arbor, and Esau by Meir Shalev. And these two books keep this feeling what some kind of circumstances what happened, or some cultural background and some patterns of identity. It's always formed you, and they formed your future, and this is quite important. And this is kept me to understanding never layer against other one. It's always play together. They form our futures, and this is like. And what I'm very interested on, it's between connections between a future and now and past. And I could say my life completely changes during this kind of political transformation what happened in 2014 in Ukraine, and this is becoming completely to revision of our social structure. And during that time, it's like a reaction to the new political situation in new needs was like our project, but also reaction was so completely different, and we was like a part of Russian bots attacks, and this was like a completely new experience, and this is all these memes came from this, and I want to like summarize my life experience, and most important part of my life I met in this last 3-4 years in development of new school of architecture, and this is much more about taking that giving, and this is like a fantastic opportunity and fantastic environment to be as an architect, as a person, to be involved in. And this is, and I think some like a school school environment is one of the most important feeling or environment there we existing on. Thank you so much. And,
thank you a lot, Oleg.
Back to the auditorium.
Yes.
See Fermin.
This is the auditorium.
And after be in some kind of
yeah, we have many people in the audience, and also many people will watch it later. So we invite everyone to send an email to us with a feedback to the speakers. That's always great to have, so that we can send it to you, at least something from the audience. Oleg, you just mentioned how the political transformation of Ukraine influenced you, and also as an architect. And since 2017, you started this new architecture university for people who haven't experienced this transformation. For younger generations, how can we transmit? How can we pass these learnings from that period to the new generation of architects?
Yeah, we have some kind of problem because it was like some kind of interruption between oldest generation and our generation, and this is. But we have to create some kind of heritage. I don't know, some hand by hand estafette to the. Because our environment is so rich and so beautiful, and we not really discovered a lot of shapes and many formations and many phases of this. To be, I don't know, to be sensitive is quite important. And be sensitive in sense of because everything that happened it's always have some controversial contradictions, and this is to try to clean important things and propaganda and some personalities, honest thing, artificial things, and this is it's quite important because it's more like some kind of Japanese way. Their modernity not against tradition. We have to work with these issues much carefully.
That's a huge challenge, and being more specific for the university, what needs were you trying to satisfy by creating the new architecture university?
Yeah, we have quite big deficit because all nations little bit go west, but and this means that new wave of immigration, new some kind quite very fragile identity, how we could find ourselves and realize ourselves right here, how we could change life around you, not look for, not to be client of other kind of cultures and economies. And this is maybe biggest challenge what we get during this school development. more and more integrated during last decade to the global societies by some kind of not only technological evolution, and also some like a mental development that's already went in our hands. And this is becoming a much bigger competition between these provincials of this westward and westward, and this, and we quite try to find this balance between integration and accumulation of our energies and people and first and something like that. But it's still we quite deep in this kind of competition.
That's a very interesting point, and actually also might be something for the conversation with Andre later.
Sure.
This such huge influences and topics for both of you. I have one question for you from the audience. We talk about traveling, and you are a passionate traveler. The question from the audience is, what is your travel style, and what do you like to do when you visit a new city?
I'm never do some like a good circle or something. I'm try to hold my I don't know, some radar, and I could.
Now your connection is gone.
We lost. I'm very.
We lost
Sorry?
your connection for. We lost your connection for 5 seconds. You were saying about the radar.
Usually I'm turn on my radar and I'm trying to feel city, and I'm interested on some kind of contradiction which city has between some kind of favelas, how it looks border, and some luxury type of thinking, and I'm always between a problem and exhibit city, and I could say during the travel I travel a lot by work, by my architectural practice, and this is most important parts of most influent part of this my travel. It's some kind of other ones, and I could mention it was like a project in Korea, Kuwait, and California. This completely helped me understood my identity, my quality of my landscape, my space, my environment, and this was like a real challenges. What helped a lot to find for me myself, I could say.
So to ask Andre to turn on the camera and the microphones, and that we can start the conversation together. Andre, thank you for joining us. So nice to see you both. First, again, thank you for the wonderful talks. It is super interesting to hear you and see what is important for you and what shaped you as an architect. You both mentioned history, heritage, the political transformation. How can we use that as a motivation for architecture? Andre, would you like to start?
Probably architecture always reflects the politics and it should actually do, because you can, so back in time, like all these totalitarian regimes or monarchy, they also influenced architecture and cities in such a huge way that we see this outcome today. And probably, it's such a long process, architecture, that it's not possible that it will sustain just by itself as a piece of art. And it's always a reaction to the political steam. It's always a people live because of that politics.
Yeah, sure. I could continue a little bit. There's a wave coming from Андре, and I could say architecture as a good movie. It's not always leisure. It's always drama. It's always deepness. It's always, I don't know, some kind of reality, but reflected by some very artistic way, and we a truth in everything. We could focus on it, but also always remember about dreams, which was part of these some kind of drama, or brought all this environment to the drama, and this is quite important because it's architecture. It's always about dreams, and this is but some kind of dreams, passion, and somehow some would be I don't know, unhuman. Yeah, but this is like we could define these waves of which form this environment, and this is quite fabulous, quite fantastic, interesting investigation. What we're always doing during, I don't know, our lives, during holidays, during our working, I don't know, part of our life.
If you say so, architecture is about dreaming, and if you continue dreaming, what is that? What you are most excited about the future of the architecture? What you are the most excited about? What's coming next? Maybe Oleg, you want to start, or?
Yeah, I could say, it's quite many direction and very controversial direction I could go, and we have to think about, maybe we have to build much less what we did in one case, and this is quite difficult to serve this kind of building industry, which really doesn't know for what they do, because it's like architecture as a part of some environmental kind of special real estate speculation, becoming some kind of alternative for whole financial and all kind of crises, and this is not good. And we have to be from our, I don't know, some kind of position to resist on it. In other case, we now live in huge transformation of imagination of what environment about, and we a little bit moving to the to more being that, or to be our owner of some spaces, to becoming much more important. And this is completely changed our this imagination of our environment.
And Андре, what is your opinion? What are you most excited about? What's coming next for architecture?
You know, I would like totally agree with Oleg that we should be careful of building, probably less with much more care, and yeah, you know, if you share like that, probably decade that we are sharing economy that is so present, like we are sharing cars, we are sharing apartments when we are not there. It will probably lead to some new forms, and it's already somewhat there. And it's already starting to be way more ecological than to start using some new technologies in your newly constructed building. Because, you know, every piece of technology, it requires so much ecological effort. And just if you want to be with nature, if you want to go towards ecology, you just have to use less and build less. And that's simple. And yeah, I really love all these conversions, like of the existing, you know, structures, and it just shows you the possibility that it is just there. You just have to, you know, open that treasure pots and show that to everyone, and or just sometimes, you know, you just teach people how to use this or that that's behind the corner, and that's wonderful. And I would see like, and we also see this direction of the use existing in also all the awards that are happening the last years in around the world. So yeah.
There is one question from the audience, which could be also. I would like to start with Andre for this question from the audience. And the question is, what took you the longest time to understand about architecture that is really important for you as an architect today? And you talked during your presentation about what shaped your personality and you as an architect in your beginnings. Is there something there that you will say, yeah, that was key?
Yeah, it took me a long time to understand that not me, but the others for whom you do are much more important in these decisions. Because, you know, as an architect, we so many times say that I was not allowed to do this and that and that. But if you start to be in that other side and start to really understand what is the essential needs or dreams of that other side. So it took me quite a lot of time to understand that. Yeah.
And Oleg, what will you say?
Sure. If I'm back to with reinspection that happened, for sure it's collaboration. It's like my friends from different countries, from my city, who introduced me completely a new way of thinking and new values, and this was like very crucial moments of crossroads when I'm turning to new direction after this kind of collaboration. But this was like always then they kept some kind of common responsibility, and this was like very important. It was okay. it looks like we a little bit lost Fermin.
We can have our own private conversation now.
Could be. Maybe some other party started already.
Yeah, yeah, but like, you know, Oleg, I remember education in Vilnius and education in Holland, and somehow from that education. Hi, we are back.
Sorry. I don't know what happened. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter how many times you try and how many times you test it.
It's in the air. It's in the air.
It happens. It happens exactly during the event. Sorry, I missed your answer your answer to your question.
We already started a conversation a bit, and I was just saying, Oleg, that as being an architect in Lithuania, I was taught that you can do architecture on your own, but actually not. It's a dialogue. It's just not possible to do architecture on your own. You just have to know to learn every day and to have that conversation between so many parties. And yeah.
Yeah, and exactly what I learned from this quarantine, because our efficiency went down 3 times maybe during this period, and I understood how phenomena. This is conversation, this is discussion, it's number one, and second, material, some kind of exercise, modeling, and I don't know, and conversation about real stuff. Yeah, maybe 2 most important elements of our practice. But I'm a few IT professionalists, and that said, they improve our efficiency in 2 times during this installation in some particular in the units.
I have one question for you both, architects. Your projects are award-winning projects. And now, what is your definition of success? What do you think is success? What should be? Andre, would you like to go first?
I don't know.
Because it is a typical question for young architects, I guess, or small practices, like trying to reach what others are reaching.
But you know, like you live your life in small these parts, and if you take one project, it has so many different periods of successful, of failure, of correction, of success, failure, and you still don't know where you are and where maybe you will be like there, or you are there or there, because architecture stays for so many years. Mm. And today, to say what is successful architecture is so abstract. I just don't know. I just have my everyday, experience, and like some days I'm more successful, and that is, yeah.
I have two options to answer. It's always some kind of part of success. It's like some kind of psychological environment environment inside of team, and could be a success if it's some kind of time there is a pleasure with a passion, and it's not dependent from result, and this is like some kind of psychological environment which you create during the process of doing architecture. But second one, and have to be examined by time, and this could be temporary success, and we see many projects which was published in every magazines and every website, but becoming forgotten in half year, or being environmentally not friendly, and some kind of going to the I don't know, some garbage of I don't know, some cities history, or I don't know, environmental history. But one, we could manage it. Second, we not.
But you know, like not only the publishing thing is a definition of success. Probably it's because there are so many very successful and important small things that you'll never see in a magazine that I have, and personally I feel that very great success. So this probably has something to do with your personal happiness at the one or the other moment or decade of your life.
Yeah, but time, no, and the circumstances of life also could feel it. Yeah, this is very important. And
but sometimes time destroys, and there are so many projects that are published because they are a failure. So it's
sure.
It's very interesting to listen to you and to learn from you. It has been a pleasure to have you today with us. It has been also a pity that we are only online connected, but at the same time a huge also opportunity, because who knows, this also made it easier to connect and to connect with many more people. We are very thankful for your participation, and also to your team, 𝗓𝗏 and Kate, for the help organizing. Also very thankful for our partners, Jung and Exterus, who are both active in Lithuania and Ukraine. And we were very excited and very happy to be able to share this evening together. Hopefully in the future, in person. Let's have that as a goal. That will be nice. And I hope you enjoy it as well.
Yeah. And thank you for Kim for being here.
Yes, Kim is the magician.
Magician.
Thank you too. It's a pleasure.
Thank you a lot. It was super nice. Thank you also to the audience and the partners, and also to the team behind. Thank you.